Saskatchewan. Start somewhere inside its borders, pick a direction, and you can drive for hours without ever leaving. A land as vast and varied as its rich history. It doesn't matter where you begin or where you end. It doesn't matter if you're moving or standing still. The place will come to you. It will whisper to you. It will tell you stories. It's a place full of stories. Stories of culture, stories of survival, stories of accomplishment, and stories of people. It will capture your imagination. It will become a part of you. It will move you. A look in the mirror revealing the expression of a thought painted in a color and framed with words conceived in the mind of an artist. A way of seeing the way of being in one another, the intangible weavings of thoughts and ideas upon the canvas of the soul. The images beyond words, an expression of being, an expression of seeing, an expression of a life being lived in a place called Saskatchewan.
In 1935, a Saskatchewan artist wanted to open an art school in an unusual location, Emma Lake, about 50 kilometers outside of Prince Albert.
It was Augustus Kenderdine, an artist who convinced the president of the university at the time that this would be an ideal spot for sketching and that they should be teaching teachers how to teach art and bring other artists up to that site.
In 1936, the Murray Point Art School opened. Over the years, it flourished. Starting in 1955, Emma Lake hosted artist workshops. Famous artists and art critics came to Emma Lake, exposing Saskatchewan artists to a world of possibilities.
It put Saskatchewan on the map in the 50s. There's research that said there was more artists in New York that knew where Emma Lake was than there was in Saskatchewan at a certain point in time.
The impact of Emma Lake was felt not only by artists from around the world, but also by those who called Saskatchewan their home.
There's hardly an art show that I go to of local artists that I don't see somebody who's got a painting from Emma Lake. It's just been that profoundly effective on people's work.
Part of the reason that artists find their time at the Emma Lake workshop so productive is that they are allowed to concentrate exclusively on their work. No matter what brings people to Emma Lake, the experience seems to be unforgettable.
I don't think that a place like Emma Lake is paralleled anywhere else. And I think similar experiences happen in other places. But I think what the university has in this facility and in this place is a jewel in the crown.
Allan Sapp was born January 2nd, 1928, on the Red Pheasant Reserve. His mother died of tuberculosis when he was still a young boy. Sapp's grandmother, Maggie Sunius, took care of him and became a source of great inspiration throughout his life. Allan was often ill, but he found refuge and satisfaction in drawing. At residential school, Allan was not encouraged to pursue his interest in drawing and art.
What do that for? You should be writing letters instead of draw some pictures. Bad point.
In 1955, Allan married Margaret Paskiman Whiteford from the nearby Little Pine Reserve. 5 years later, his son David was born. That same year, Allan's grandmother passed away.
Bit more, don't I? And they're going to dump that chicken was saying castig. Dog tapu. Oxfag went on and much is done.
In 1961, Allan moved his family to North Battleford, and he attempted to make a living as an artist. After struggling for 5 years to survive, Sapp's fortunes changed when he met Dr. Allan Goner.
That's how I'm taking pictures to the guest nuts. You're going to about Dr. Goner picture done Tabaki Dumstay. Send that time, guys. Mumstay. Not to date less. Mogas Winton, don't know what she's done. So my take a chicken.
Dr. Goner and Allan Sapp often traveled to Saskatoon, where they met with artist and university art professor Winona Mulcaster.
A teacher, Maya, you eat it what I say. That's the swimming and I was negative. But more than and don't start all. I took some more than Davash Montesco.
In 1969, in her own backyard, Mulcaster arranged the first exhibition and sale of Sapp's work. The paintings sold well, some for as much as $1,500. Allan Sapp's first formal exhibition was held at the Mendel Art Gallery in Saskatoon. The response was extraordinary. 13,000 people visited the gallery the first weekend of the show. His paintings are known for their honesty and ability to evoke emotion. Allan Sapp has received numerous awards. He was elected to the Royal Canadian Academy of Arts. He's a recipient of the Saskatchewan Order of Merit and an Officer of the Order of Canada. In 1994, Allan Sapp received the Lifetime Achievement Award from the Society for Canadian Artists of Native Ancestry. In 1989, the Allan Sapp Gallery opened in North Battleford. It houses a collection of paintings donated by the late Dr. Allan Goner. The Goner collection offers an opportunity to appreciate one of Saskatchewan's most acclaimed artists.
I'm Joe Fafard, a sculptor living in Saskatchewan. Well, I always get positive feedback because the negative feedback, I guess, doesn't come all the way to me. But I know it's out there. The positive feedback is nice, but the negative feedback is useful.
Born in 1942, internationally acclaimed artist Joe Fafard grew up in the small farming community of St. Martha, Saskatchewan. Fafard's affinity for art began in his childhood. His inspiration was the landscape that surrounded him.
As a kid, that was my main interest. The main thing I drew all the time were horses. I went to cows to build a career, and then I'm back to doing what I like.
After high school, Fafard attended the University of Manitoba, where he received his Bachelor of Fine Art. He then went on to earn his Master's of Fine Art at Pennsylvania State University. Immediately upon receiving his master's, Fafard returned to Saskatchewan to teach art. It was here that he began to build his career. Fafard became known for his Little People productions, portraits of local people, and ceramic creations that he referred to as cups. One sculpture displayed in the Manitoba Government House was brought to the attention of celebrity Bill Cosby during a tour of the building. Cosby was so impressed by the piece that he contacted Fafard. The actor commissioned him to complete 3 sculptures. In the 1980s, Fafard turned to a new medium for his art, bronze. He opened a foundry in the town of Pence, where he continued his work. Fafard's interest in using cows in works of art comes from his deep regard for their place in society.
I've done a lot of cows to the point where I'm known as the cow man. I think that they're worthy of a great deal of respect because it's been a very useful animal as far as providing us with milk, meat, and labor. They should not be, thought of as this ridiculous creature that runs awkwardly.
But not everyone shares Fafard's passion for bovine art. When Fafard's set of 7 full-size cows was to be put on display in downtown Toronto, corporate power IBM was not impressed.
I said we wouldn't have computers without our ability to become rich by exploiting cows.
Part of Fafard's attraction to creating bronze statues is their enduring quality.
And certainly are more durable than me. so that after I'm gone, they may still be around to give future generations some idea about what we were doing at this time.
Fafard's success has resulted in many awards, including the Order of Canada. His works are on display in galleries across the country and around the world, helping to represent Saskatchewan's place in society.
The real reason why we were important was because if we can do it, you can do it. We broke the mold where if you were going to make it, you had to go to Toronto or go to New York. We stayed in Regina, Saskatchewan, and we made our big paintings here.
In the early 1960s, 5 artists from Regina created a stir in the Canadian art scene.
We came together because of the atmosphere, and what drew me to Regina was the Mackenzie Art Gallery. It was the only grade A gallery west of Toronto, and I knew that if I was going to grow as an artist, I would have to be able to see grade A paintings.
In the 1950s, another Centre for Visual Artists was established that would have an impact on the Saskatchewan art scene for years to come.
The artists felt rather isolated in Saskatchewan, and to counter that isolation, Kenneth Lougheed established the artists' workshops at Emma Lake.
As the American critic Greenberg said, go to New York to see what to do and what not to do, and keep in touch. And that's really what we wanted to do at Emma Lake, was to try to get in touch with the art world, because it can be a bit isolationistic if you keep working here without getting in touch with what's going on elsewhere.
We have a profound, direct connection with New York. And people say, well, why? Why would this be? But if you think about it, New York is a vertical abstraction in concrete. And what's Regina? Horizontal abstraction. I mean, Regina is the land of the big sky. Why wouldn't you paint abstract paintings here?
The quality abstract paintings and other work being produced in the early 1960s culminated in an important show in Regina.
Ronald Bloor organized an exhibition at the Mackenzie Art Gallery, which he called the May Show. And the May Show included all the artists that were in the future known as the Regina Five. The National Gallery of Canada selected the painters from this May Show and created the exhibition 5 Painters of Regina.
The National Gallery show was a critical success for the Regina Five.
I think that the Regina Five is part of a bigger story. It's the development of art in this province, part of the creative nature of the province's identity, for gosh sakes.
The success of the Regina Five demonstrated that world-class artists could not only survive, but flourish in Saskatchewan.
To be there without actually being there. To just do it without hesitation, to follow an instinct to the end of the game. To wear the mask, to play the hat, to be the match that lights the fuse. To infuse the play with life, an expression of being there without holding the moment a second more than the expiry date on the package.
I think Saskatchewan is ridiculously supportive of the arts. We don't have that many, there's less than 1 million people in our province, and yet a company like ours can survive and thrive and grow because of how we value art, how we value our cultural contributions from young people.
The General Fools are part of a new breed of theatrical performers. They are a young, innovative troupe, attempting to redefine improv and unscripted theater with each and every performance.
The General Fools began in 1997 when 8 people got together and decided that Regina's improv scene was limited to the high school and didn't include anything beyond that. So we formed a theater company.
One of the members decided to call us Jar of Fools, and another misheard it and heard General Fools, and then we became General Fools. The name has stuck with us like the Black Plague for the past 8 seasons.
Over the years, the General Fools have changed their approach to improv performances.
As the Fools aged and saw more different improvisation around the country, the idea struck that we should make it a little more theatrical and a little more challenging. And so as a company, we took on the risk to start experimenting with long-form improvisation, which is best described as scriptless plays, so longer pieces of theater that are improvised rather than rehearsed.
The company has traveled across Canada performing at a number of improv festivals, including the Vancouver International Improv Festival and the Winnipeg What If Festival.
I think that really gives us like a greater perspective on what's going on in the country as far as improv, and also, you know, we are able to display our talents and our group to Canada.
We've gained a lot from seeing companies, and we've used them and used the skills we see and used them to build our company up to a level where we present new, really original work at these festivals.
I was just gonna go get you flowers.
No, you weren't. I can't believe I chose you. And to top it all off, you have super bad breath.
That's only because I can't find work.
I know. And why is that?
Because I have such bad breath. It's a recurring cycle.
The General Fools have received audience appreciation and the admiration of their fellow performers across the country.
Well, it was really, he didn't do anything, and he wouldn't rain. What good was he? He wouldn't even turn his head around right. He never saw a cow. As far as that goes, he never seen a cow.
Our peers in improvisation and in theater in those cities that come to see the festivals really give us a lot of great respect about the work we do, which makes us feel fantastic because, who knew that here in Regina we could create a company that is sort of not heralded, but certainly appreciated and respected in a lot of cities across Canada.
The General Fools are committed to improv theater and want nothing more than to make it a lasting part of the theater scene in Saskatchewan.
We hope that one day we'll come back as old men and women, be able to see a General Fools show in Regina, knowing that we were part of something that has lasted and had an impact on Regina and the world.
The General Fools, like other artists in the province, appreciate the support they've received.
We have fantastic galleries, we have beautiful theaters, we have companies like us who are learning, who are developing, and who are becoming proficient at their art form. And everybody in Saskatchewan supports that, and I think that's amazing.
The Globe Theatre was Saskatchewan's first professional theatre and has grown to become the province's largest arts organization. The Globe was founded by Ken and Sue Kramer in 1966 and is located in the heart of Regina.
Globe Theatre moved into this building. They had a very limited budget, really just enough for paint and wallboard. So the facility was certainly utilitarian, but it wasn't particularly attractive.
What the Globe lacked in style, it more than made up for in creativity. At the center of the Globe was a 400-seat theatre in the round. As the only fixed round in Canada, it makes the Globe distinct for both actors and audiences.
They wanted to end the division between artist and audience, to demystify what they called the Temple of Art, and create a theater where the audience and the artist are on the same level.
In the 1990s, the Globe Theatre, like many other theatres, began experiencing financial difficulties.
There was a recession. People were not spending their entertainment dollars quite as freely as they had been.
A new artistic director was hired. She faced the challenge of turning the Globe's fortunes around.
Susan Furley initiated a capital campaign called Imagine This, and her goal was to raise $1 million.
The Imagine This campaign raised $1.3 million through individual and government donations. The theater implemented major renovations, including the Morris and Jackie Shumiacher lobby, a second stage called the Templeton Studio Cabaret, and a balcony accessible to people in wheelchairs.
We've grown from a budget of $1.1 million to just over $2 million, and that growth has been driven by the audiences. Our main stage audiences have increased by 35%. On the Sandbox stage, audiences have grown by 148%. And then there's been tremendous growth in corporate sponsorship and, of course, in box office revenues as well.
The Globe Theatre is committed to producing plays by Saskatchewan playwrights and has commissioned local talents such as Floyd Favel, Gail Bowen, and Joey Tremblay. The Globe Theatre's commitment to art and the community have given it a special place in Regina and beyond.
We're the jewel at the heart of the city, and people drive great distances from all over southern Saskatchewan, Manitoba, Alberta, and the States to come to our shows.
The words are colored with the ink of the place, the small town newspaper expressing the voice of its people, the vessel by which rural life floats upon the consciousness of the province.
Ever since there has been news in Saskatchewan, community newspapers have been there to report it. For many years, it was one of the few ways that information could be spread through a community.
The role of the community papers was to provide an important link to the outside world in those days because, I mean, when you look, there was no internet, there was no television, radio was scarce at the best.
While the papers kept readers in touch with world events, updates on local happenings were a main draw for subscribers.
Agriculture was an important part, but when you look back through the old newspapers, you also saw what was for sale in the local merchants. Those things were almost just as important back then to the people as what was happening around the province, as what was happening in the store across the street.
In the early days, transportation limited the area that a local newspaper could serve.
Getting to a neighboring town wouldn't have been a 15-minute trip, it would have been a half day. So a majority of your papers would have concentrated more on your center community that you're serving.
Over the years, changes in technology have affected the way local papers are produced.
I can even remember 25, 30 years ago printing our own newspaper. Every newspaper had its own press. As presses became more modern and expensive, we simply couldn't afford or didn't have the resources to continue to print it ourselves. So what has happened is all the newspapers basically have gone to a system where there's a dozen or a dozen and a half printing plants around the province, and they print all of our papers for us.
While the ways in which newspapers are run have changed, the community focus has remained the same.
We're smaller communities, we know the people in the communities. Most community newspapers are going to cover the story very carefully. They're not going to sensationalize it and then run a big gory photo on the front page. They're going to just simply tell what happened.
Local newspapers often have their own interpretation of world events. The community focus keeps Saskatchewan readership of local papers among the highest in the country.
More than 8 out of 10 people in the province are reading one of the papers that belongs to our association.
For over 100 years, Saskatchewan community newspapers have given a voice to its local residents.
The motion of a song expressed through the bend of a knee, the turn of a wrist, the catch of a breath. The baton and the dancer together defying the will of gravity. To make the world notice, to make time stop, if only for a moment. That's the stuff legends are made of.
We're a province of less than 1 million people, and yet we produce people that can get world championships and operate at the highest level of their sport.
World champion baton twirler Stacy Singer is another one of Saskatchewan's premier athletes. Twirling captured Singer's imagination when she was just a toddler.
When I was 3, my babysitter's daughter used to twirl, and I used to always go watch her, so I was very interested and I wanted to start. But Maureen Johnson, who later became my coach, said that I was too young to start, so I had to wait a year, and then I began when I was 4.
Singer was taught twirling and dance at the Martin School of Dancing in Regina. The school inspired her to aim for excellence.
Well, I started training fairly hard at a young age. I saw the girls that were going to Worlds, and even when I was really young, I thought I should be doing that. So that's always what I sort of aimed for, never thinking I would become a world champion. Everyone thought I was this little funny, cute kid, and no one really took me seriously.
Coached by Maureen Johnson and Alan Kramer, Singer went to the Nationals at age 6. By age 8, she qualified to go to the World Junior Championships in Germany. Stacy Singer wowed the crowds in Germany and won gold.
I really love to go out on the floor and do my hardest tricks ever, but I think that first year I took everyone by such surprise.
Winning the 1988 championships was only the beginning to Singer's amazing career.
Starting in 1988, had a run of 6 consecutive world championships, finishing off in 1993 with 2 golds, one as the senior baton twirling championship and also as part of the Optimist Buffalo Gals baton twirling team that won a gold medal for the team championships in the Worlds that year.
Singer has since retired from competition, but remains involved in the sport.
I teach now for Maureen Johnson, Martin School of Dance, and I've gone and taught clinics at Australia, France, Japan, so it's been great that way.
Singer's outstanding athleticism and achievements have earned her a place in the Saskatchewan Sports Hall of Fame.
What made her stand out was the fact that she was a perfectionist. She worked and worked and worked till her routine was absolutely perfect. And that shows with the number of world championships that she won.
The expression of beauty in the quiet of a moment is perhaps the greatest expression of all. To be in a place sacred and magical is to caress the face of nature in all her glory.
Saskatoon is home to a very special place, a place rare and sacred, a place called Wanuskewin.
It's a very sacred site, medicine wheel and the buffalo jump. So this place had quite a history. But now our people are using their spiritual base and rebuilding themselves, restoring what was dormant for a while. So that's all coming back.
In June 1992, the Wanuskewin Heritage Park opened as an interpretive center, designed to tell the story of First Nations people.
We decided the museum was not the way to go because we wanted something to interpret our history so that it's sort of live, including the landscape and the trails and the interpretive center.
Since opening, the Wanuskewin Heritage Park has helped to educate thousands of people each year about First Nations history and spirituality.
I think every school pretty well in Saskatoon and province have been here already. They even come from Manitoba and Alberta, school children.
Wanuskewin also helps to connect First Nations people to their culture, but it is intended to be a resource for people of all races and cultures. Wanuskewin features scenic trails, archaeological digs, artifact displays, and live performances.
We have artists that can perform, so we're going to develop the amphitheater for that purpose.
As Wanuskewin grows, its programs and facilities develop Saskatchewan, which will continue to benefit from this living monument to a rich history.
The expressions transcend words. They transcend color, motion, and emotion. The expressions expressed by those who need to have found a place in the heart of the continent. They have found a home in the heart of Saskatchewan.